All right. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks for coming. We're all three game developers, and I think we're going to sort of spend half the time talking about just some various game development topics in general and here in Oklahoma, and hopefully you guys have some questions, and we'll do Q&A at the end. So I think we'll just start off sort of introducing ourselves. My name is James Simpson. I'm the CEO and founder of GoldFire Studios, which is an HTML5 game development studio here in Oklahoma City. We've got our office just up the street in downtown. And sorry, can you guys not hear? Yeah, so we've built a game platform, and we're working on a new game that I'll let Luke talk a little bit about. But so. Yeah.
All right. I'm Luke Simpkins. I also work at GoldFire. I'm CTO, which means I program a lot. And we do multiplayer games. I don't know if you mentioned that. It's massively multiplayer games. We have 2 prior games, and the current one's Casino RPG.
Yeah, and so as part of that, our games aren't on any specific platform. We've actually built a web-based platform for our games and eventually other developers as well.
My name's Stanley Ipkiss. In real life, go by Jim Carrey. No, I'm Matt Harmon, development director at Bonozo. It's a Tulsa video game company. Started about 3 years ago from the fallout of, if you heard of Tornado Studios or 2015. All the smart people went to Bonozo. And then let's see what else here. Do we list the video games now, or we're good?
Yeah, I think we'll just, sort of, it's basically what you guys want to hear, but I think we've got a few sort of topics that we figured you guys might be interested in that we'll talk about, and then we'll go into some Q&A. So I think just in general, how many of you all are from Oklahoma? All of you? Most of you? No? Okay. So yeah, I think we're going to start off just talking about, what game development exists in Oklahoma? What's the game development scene look like? Anyone want to?
Yeah, well, as you can see from this panel, game development's a little sparse in Oklahoma. There's 3 of us up here. So it's we're trying to get the scene started. One of the ways we're trying to do that is James and I started a game developers group, and that's actually here in Oklahoma City. So anybody, developers, artists, anything, if you're interested in just game design, we just love to play games and you're going to meet some developers. Come check it out. It's OK Game Dev?
Yeah, so you can get on the mailing list for that. It's at okgd.org. And we have monthly meetings, usually in downtown, each month here in Oklahoma City. So if you're just interested in game development, you should definitely check that out.
So right now, I guess to answer the opportunities available in Oklahoma, Matt can talk a little bit more from the other side of the table. Because since we're indie developers, we have a very small studio, just 3 people, and we work all the time making games. So the opportunities are kind of right now what you make them. So you got to kind of go out, start an indie game dev studio. We don't have any, I guess, big studios. Is there anything you know of?
No, Texas would be the closest.
Yeah.
Austin.
So opportunities are kind of being start up right now. So it's kind of up to you to kind of make your opportunities.
Well, and the great thing with indie development is it's so easy to get started nowadays with like free engines like Unity, or there's JavaScript engines like what we use, and all sorts of things like that where you can get started up for nothing. And there's something wrong with the mic? Okay. A little closer? Okay. I lost where I was. Yeah, so there's all these resources out there, so you don't necessarily need another studio out there to get those opportunities. You can create those opportunities for yourself, and that community that's here in Oklahoma is really starting to pick up over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So, I mean, the resources available, like you said, are out there for anybody to pick it up and get started and start learning right away.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. The indie game revolution is like at an all-time peak. I've never experienced indie developers getting the love they get from fans and the explosion of creativity. And like they were saying, the tools really enable anyone of any age, any skill level to make a mark and find their position. I would also comment on the big studio development. I am originally from Los Angeles, which is a game mecca, literally. We're talking, LA, Tokyo, and LA is number one, and pretty much as far as I'm concerned in video games, and it's a pretty awesome experience. I would recommend kind of experiencing both. You get it's nothing like being on a 300-man team and creating a AAA title that everyone wants and is willing to do anything to get it. But they're both lucrative. The indie road is probably path less, traveled, and the corporate road probably a safer way to maybe raise a family one way or another. I'm not sure, but something like that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what advice would you give for someone who wants to get into game development?
You want to pick that up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Go.
This is very disorganized. I think the main point I would say is just start making games on your own. No matter if you want to do indie dev or join a larger studio. Like I said, it just goes back to the point. It's really easy to start making stuff. It doesn't have to be good necessarily. It doesn't need to be original even. Just doing something, making something, even if, for example, you want
Flappy
to do...
Bird.
Yeah, exactly. If you just want to do the art side of things, it's still beneficial to see at least a little bit of what the programming side is or the game design side. And that just really helps you no matter what sort of side of game development you want to get into.
Yeah, I was going to say the level of gamer that you are as far as your enthusiasm, not necessarily your game type or skill level, but probably would reflect how successful you're going to be, I would pretty much say. If you're kind of play games sometimes and you want to do this because you hear it's the next gold rush, that's what you're going to get out of it, some mediocre. If you just think games all day and night and you got a tattoo, a Triforce tattoo on your neck or something, you're going to nail it. And that's how I would gauge yourself. There's plenty of opportunity. There is no other industry like games because, as you all know, the combination of media lets anyone be involved, whether you're design clothes or you design logos or you're an engineer or you're a money person or you like to do accounting or it's every single person's skill has a place. There is, and if you're like super athletic, you can be a motion caption actor. I mean, everyone can find a spot.
And some I think this kind of covers, maybe cover a question later, but some opportunities are available right now in the city. One of them's at Oklahoma Christian. If you're looking to get into game development, they actually have a whole program for you there. I think it's either a 2-year or 4-year. I don't know, but they'll teach you a lot of 3D modeling, programming, design, a lot of the aspects. So if you're looking into it, I'd look at the Oklahoma Christian. And if you don't have time to kind of go do a college course, there's actually Digital Tutors, which is actually a company in town, but has a lot of videos online about using Unity, using 3D programs, anything like that. So the opportunities are there to learn. And so check out digitaltutors.com, and also Oklahoma Christian University's program.
Yeah, and we, our game dev group is actually affiliated with both of them pretty closely. We actually meet at the PL Studios offices. So if that's something you're interested in, you can, at the same time, you can come check out their offices and see what they're all about as well.
I think that Christian school was like ranked 14th in video gaming.
Yeah. So
Oklahoma
Christian's one of the top rated in the country for game development.
I came from a school of hard knocks. I'm completely self-taught. I actually do teach sometimes at USC, the game pipeline. I do input at Full Sail in Florida, but I have no professional training other than just experience in books. So for me, from my experience, I would make a case that works as well. Doing it on your own and works if you have the passion.
Yeah, I think all three of us actually have made it work the same way. James and I both have no formal training in game development or anything like that. We got into it by just breaking into it and breaking our backs trying to figuring out every single problem the hard way. Especially since we make a real-time, massively multiplayer game, going from just starting off, you have to solve all the problems that nobody's over there to tell you how to do, and it's certainly possible to do that. So.
And that goes back to the point of just starting to make something. Just go out and do it, because that's how you're going to learn the fastest way. There's tons of free resources out there in addition to things like digital tutors and different schools, and just sort of experimenting and failing a bunch of times while you're building different things. That's how you're going to learn really quickly and learn a lot of different aspects of game development.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone here is looking for actual technical specifics of the road. I mean, I know they've said Unity, pretty much that is the way, to do anything right now, but it's also a little too heavy. I recommend anyone's first program gets a number 1 through 100. Personally, as a game, if you want to program and you've never programmed a game, I recommend that. And then,
and one of my favorites, if you're looking to get into just basic programming, is a site called Code Academy. It's free, and they've got really easy lessons to go through, and it's not like a book format. It's where you sort of go through step by step, and it takes you through actually coding these things, so you can get up to speed pretty quickly with something like that.
Cool. All right. All right. Next question is, I guess I'll let you pick out the questions.
Okay. I guess we'll talk a little bit about are you all interested in what specifically goes into game development, or okay. Okay, so what kind of skills? I guess we sort of talked about this. What sort of skills, sort of the process in game development?
You probably need to be willing to be called a geek at one point. No laughing. All right, tough crowd. In the end of the day, you probably got to be smart. I don't really think game dev. One of the awesome things about being in the game business is that everyone's smart in it. I mean, there's just not a lot of room for, I don't know how to say it, but it's a smart industry. You have to be able to either be analytical or attention to detail. If you're an artist, you got to be able to express yourself and make things look pleasing to the eye. It's all challenging. Every time you do anything in the game business, it'll probably be your first time. And if you are lucky enough to do a few things in a row, it'll just make you faster and get you ready for the next level.
Well, and especially if you're doing indie development, because usually, you're going to have that small team where you can't just focus on one aspect of the development. You've got to do design and programming and marketing and all these other things that don't necessarily relate specifically to the development of the game, but they're all equally important for game development.
Yeah, actually, the marketing part of it can be the hardest part of it, because there are a lot of people out there that are going to hate you for your idea, or just think you should just, what happened? Like when we were promoting our Kickstarter on Reddit, we actually posted the Kickstarter, and our game, I don't know if we mentioned it, but it has to deal with casinos. It's a casino MMO, and some people have a little bit of a negative connotation to freemium games. And so when we posted on Reddit, we had one dude jump on there and tell us that we should just kill ourselves. Like literally just come out and be like, you guys should just kill yourselves. And then he went on to this huge tangent and discussion about how the human race is getting stupider over time, how stupider people are breeding. Has anybody seen Idiocracy? Idiocracy? Okay, this guy said we, as game developers, were proof that Idiocracy was coming true. So you kind of got to deal with that sort of thing. People are going to come out there and just try to rip you down for it. But
yeah, there's always tons of trolls and haters and stuff like that, but that's just sort of any side of game development, really most industries, period. You're going to have stuff like that, and you just got to deal with it. Speaking of Kickstarter, what do you guys think about Kickstarter? I know
you guys are if I'll introduce you. These are the first video game successful Kickstarted video game. They went over their $20,000 goal, funded all in Oklahoma. They know everything about Kickstarting, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so we did a Kickstarter for Casino RPG, like Luke was saying about it a year ago. Well, a little over a year ago, and we see it as a really interesting, emerging means to get game development up and running. At the same time, it's also becoming an area that's increasingly crowded and difficult to get into. So, for example, when we ran our Kickstarter, when was that? Last January. There were about, 500 or 600 game projects on Kickstarter. Today, there's closer to 5,000. So, the field is getting increasingly crowded, and part of that is because, it's getting easier and easier to get into game development. But also people are seeing things like, the Double Fine or the Star Citizen raising millions and millions of dollars and think that could be them, right? But really, a Kickstarter is a whole lot of hard work, a whole lot of marketing, and selling your message, and really activating a community. And so that's a big thing that we focused on. But if you do it the right way, it can be really beneficial for, especially for indie development.
Has anybody here thought about kickstarting a game? Has anybody? You have? I think the one thing that you're going to have to learn more than anything else is marketing. And that's where, if you have no experience with marketing, I know James has, but I hadn't when we did it. I'm more technical, more development focused. And so when we did it, I learned so much about marketing. And so that's going to be kind of your core. And if you ever do decide to run a Kickstarter, I would definitely do a ton of research beforehand. There's actually, James did a presentation on all the steps you got to take to kind of start building your audience, contact blogs, do that sort of thing to kind of get a crowd before you actually launch the Kickstarter.
The kickstarting is a game developer's dream come true because it's the only way where you're not obligated to pay the money back per se, and you have creative freedom. Until crowdfunding, that actually didn't really exist, not at the scale it is now. So there is something really compelling if you can do it. I don't kickstart, I don't crowdfund. I think about it. I do have a lot of people that have tried it. I basically do my funding through myself. I would originally just use my income to fund it, and then as that grow, bring in the friends and family. Then as that grew, bring in the investors, and then and then as that grew, you can then put the money back into the company, and that's a real traditional way to do it, and it works great if you know how to manage your overhead. So.
All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sort of where do you think the game industry is headed? Just sort of maybe short term and into the future.
Yeah. Oh man.
I want to hear your opinion on this one.
Okay. Well, I guess when I was growing up, the joke was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a boy would be like a firefighter. And pretty much now, I think if you ask the question, the answer is a game developer. So, at first hand, I would think, it's going to become so saturated. There's so many games, like game spam, like everywhere. It's like everyone. But then at the same time, I'm like, man, I don't know. We've only had smartphones for so long. Internet's only been around so long. I mean, the bandwidth's so slow. There's so many things I still cannot do with the devices that I have. And it's like we're all going to be wanting to consume media. To me, the split was the comment hardcore gamers versus casual gamers. I think I mentioned this before. I'll be real fast. But we're all kind of probably in agreement that casual gamers over time become hardcore gamers. So the hardcore game market is growing, and then the casual game market is growing. Casual being like new people, people not used to playing video games on a daily basis, but it's hard to suggest any real other industry to be in other than perhaps like, health or something. So the future is all the way.
Has anybody tried out the Oculus? I know Bonozo's got one over there. Has anybody tried out that Oculus yet, or even tried out an Oculus? Well, I definitely suggest you go over there and try it. For the direction the game industry going, I really think we're headed to a little bit of a split, just like you said, between the hardcore and the casual gamer. I don't think the games that you kind of see on your phone, 2D games, 3D games you play on your PC, I don't think they're going to go away. The things that you can kind of pick up and play in 5 minutes and put down. But I think we're going to see a split between that and more immersive entertainment. And it's not going to stop with Oculus. There are a ton of companies out there that are actually building technologies that kind of further improve that immersion. Haptic gloves where you can see like pressure-sensitive gloves, omnidirectional treadmills, to kind of start taking that experience to the full level where you actually, that fourth wall between you and what's happening is completely dropping. So I think we're going to see more of like a split between the difference between maybe a novel and a movie and a video game. And I think we're going to further see that different split again between the current video game industry and the future industry of like super immersive technology.
Yeah, I think another thing to go along with those is portability, which we're already starting to get to, but we're still a ways away. And what I mean by portability is where your devices and your different screens, it doesn't matter which one you're using, it's basically just a different screen size, and it lets you access those games and that content seamlessly, the same experience, the same game from different points, and whether that's through browser technology or cloud streaming or a number of different technologies, it's going to get to a point to where you don't need some specific device to play this game. You don't need a tablet for this game and a TV for this one. It'll all work together. It'll all go seamlessly between those different experiences to be one connected experience. Anything else?
Well, I kind of feel like the future is war. I feel like kind of every company, one way or another, is kind of going to the same business, the app business, the website business. Like, they're all doing the same thing, and I feel like internet war is around the corner, which is a great thing. I'm not a big fan of the wearable tech. I know it's like a real hype thing right now. If you watch the history of it, is like anyone serious about games wants immediate response, and none of these devices give you that. And until they can do that, I would rather play a game when I push the trigger, the gun goes off immediately.
Do you think they'll eventually be able to do that? I don't know if you can hear me. The wearable tech, Oculus, that sort of thing?
90%. I think it could hit 90%. Hey, it's all going to happen. We're all going to try it, and we're all going to review it, and that'll be its future. We'll all buy it. We'll all try it.
You think it's going to be more of a trend that kind of hits and then tapers off?
Talking about the future is so crazy. I really think that the big revolution is probably just the 4K versus 4K pixel TV right now. Just making what we have look even more realistic. I mean, I really think that's the main win, really. But until we get bored of that, I mean.
Yeah, did you have a question?
Do you think that Nintendo should write a virtual boy pack?
Virtual boy.
Yes.
Yes.
That'll be Nintendo's Rift. In fact, you must secretly work for them because you got some information that we don't.
You know that Nintendo has enough money in the bank to last 20 years, like basically lose money for 20 years and still stay alive. So I think they should use some of that cash and bring back the Virtual Boy.
I'm short Nintendo. I think they're in trouble. I read the financial data. I think they're in big trouble. Once you see Super Mario on your cell phone, to me, that's the beginning of the end. And we'll see.
Let's see. Well, how do you come up with ideas for games, and how do you sort of decide what to work on, or which game to go with?
Wow, that's a great question, man. Who wants that?
Yeah, I guess that's the difference between making what you want to make and making what puts food in your mouth. It's a hard question to ask. I want to hear you answer this one, James.
I'd say when you're developing games, or if you're just a gamer in general, you're always I think generally thinking of lots of different ideas that you think would be cool games. But the key that I always think about is you take those ideas and you sort of store them away. When you first come up with the idea, that's when you're most excited about it. And you're like, oh, this will be an amazing game. I want to make this right now. But if you do that, you're going to run into trouble. And so the key is to just sort of set it aside, come back to it 6 months, a year, or further down the line. If you're still just as excited about that idea, if you still see it as something that's has a lot of potential, then that's when you start to look at it a little more seriously. So, for example, like with Casino RPG, the game that we've got in beta testing right now, that was an idea that was sort of just sort of brewing for several years before development ever started on it. And it was something that was still sounded just as viable and just as interesting of a concept when we started development as when the idea first came about.
Yeah, make sure your idea doesn't get out of scope. I think that's one of the things that almost everybody has a problem with. I certainly had a problem with it when I first started, is that you want to make like the game that is just massive and has everything you ever wanted in it.
Yeah, you want the entire universe that's all unique and it goes infinitely, and that gets a little difficult.
Yeah, I had definitely had the problem when I started. It's like taking your idea and then like trimming it down and then trimming it down even more until it's something that's actually feasible, because you can just like burn out on it if you don't do that and take it to just something ultra simple. And like I said before, Flappy Bird. I mean, Flappy Bird, that dude was pulling in like $50K a day for a while. I mean, you can make Flappy Bird. I know there's probably a few other things that work there. Maybe you did some marketing stuff, maybe some shady marketing stuff to get it into the top app store. I don't know, but the game probably took him 3 days to make.
This question about how we get our ideas and what to pick to work on is probably the most important one. I think about this every single day, all day. I always have, and it is the most important part to your production, your idea. And his explanation that you need to manage the scope is spot on. That's almost all of it, but it's still not all of it. The idea itself does have to be awesome in one way or another. You need to have an extremely awesome idea. There's a lot of people, there's some cliche sayings that will say like, it's not about the idea, it's the execution, or you'll hear phrases like, ideas are a dime a dozen, or don't listen to that at all. So it probably means to me is like learning how to test your idea. I want to just mention, like, basically to me, what a producer is the person that selects whether an idea is good enough to be made or needs to be reworked, whether minimized, modified, or just straight out deleted. And if you want to be in the game business or any type of entertainment business, software business, any business, toy business, widget business, to be able to know when you have a hit or not will pretty much define your career. And kind of, again, I want to ping back the scope. Don't be overambitious on your first try. And but that aside, when you have your idea, you gotta test it. You gotta get people's opinion. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but you need to get their opinion. You need your friend's opinion. You need strangers' opinion. You need a lot of opinions. If they all hate it, that could be a good thing. But you really need to just constantly revolve it around your mind in every angle possible. This conversation could be really long. I'll cut it off there, but managing ideas is probably the most important thing. It's very serious.
So any other, I guess just... Oh, me? Yeah, okay. Any other just sort of general advice, game development related? I guess you sort of just went into that, but...
Yeah, general advice. I'll give you some general advice. Don't be too cocky. That's my job. No, but don't get too cocky. You're just gonna trip, and you don't. The heart will be fall. You definitely don't want to put down another team. You definitely don't want to just only believe your idea on a team is the best one. You don't want to. Don't even burn bridges. I mean, the video game business, you don't want to do that because we're all circling around the same passion. This is a very exciting medium. It's something it gives us more to life than a lot of other experiences do, and it's why we like it. So just respect it as you go through it. That would be my advice.
Cool. Yeah, I think what I'd say is just, don't be afraid to put what you've made out there. I know so many people, they make games and they keep tweaking it forever, and they never want to release it because they're afraid people won't like it. But no matter what you release, there's always going to be those people who don't like it, but there's also going to be a lot of people who just absolutely love it. So you'll never know until you put it out there. And so I say the sooner the better. You just get it out there and get people playing the game.
Yeah,
I would counter that.
What?
I would counter that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I say do not release a game until gamers love it. I don't necessarily subscribe to my own logic sometimes because, usually.
Well, by release, I mean get people testing it.
I hear stuff all the time like, oh, it could use more polish, but I don't, I've been looking at it too long. I can't see the problems. Or I hear like, no. I definitely lean towards perfecting it. And even if you want to use the Flappy Bird example, which 3 days sounds long for that game, actually, it's kind of perfected. I mean, if you look at it, it's tight as a drum, and that level of polish and tightness is actually the 8th gauge or lower of the success of your thing. If it's wonky, if you're expecting people to use their imagination to fill in the gaps of how awesome your thing could be in version 2.0, you wasted all your time and money. Don't ever think about 2.0. You make your 1.0 a 1.0, not a 0.9. And that's I very much believe that's how you actually win this game.
A lot of the times, the getting things out sooner, I guess it's going to depend on your development plan. For an indie studio, especially when you're burning through cash, sometimes you want to get it out there and start getting like beta testers. In a high production game with like a super experienced team, you may have that liberty. But one of the things we had to do with Casino RPG is our goal was to get it out there as quickly as possible and start getting people testing it and play testing it as quickly as possible. And I think we had between prototype, like first starting developing prototype, and out getting it to like people playing it, like actually got a public alpha after we called it beta, but it was an alpha. But after the Kickstarter, it was a 6-month timeline, and then after that, development just took off, mainly because we had people like every day we'd log in and we'd have like 20 bug reports, and we just knock them out, stuff that we weren't aware of. And the only reason it's going to be as tight as it will be, there'll still be bugs in it, but the reason it's going to be as tight as it will be when we release next month is because we've had those people on, we pulled them on early, and we've had a full year of bug testing and play testing, and we knew where our weak areas are, and we've tightened those up. So I guess it depends on like what kind of game you're doing, and we're able to do that because we made a multiplayer game. If you're doing a single player game, it may be a different story.
If you're labeling a beta, you're basically telling everyone it's not finished. So there's no harm in that at all, and absolutely you need beta testing for multiplayer. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that. I was just kind of saying if you're dealing with a team that's talking about feature creep a lot, and and you're seeing a team that's just like getting ideas shut down, and there's another side, half the team is just trying to close it because there's not enough money to pay the bills and stuff. I mean, it's a tough spot to be in, but looking back, I felt anytime that situation has actually happened, the game was not a hit. That's all I could say is I can't look back and see in those conditions it was a hit. The hit always was yo guys, we got this. That was when it was a hit. So
just thinking kind of like the what was it, the new SimCity? That was a buggy mess when they released that. I guess that's a good example of what you're talking about. Yeah, new SimCity. Has anybody playing the new SimCity?
Yeah.
Followed that one? Yeah, that was exactly. That one was a fail.
It was so bloody I didn't even read the postmortems.
I guess we're going to open it up for questions if anyone has anything you guys want to ask. Yeah. So we do HTML5, so it's all in the browser, so JavaScript. We use an engine called the Isogenic Game Engine. I don't know what you guys use, but
I don't know if you guys are interested in the technical part, but we use Node on the back end. I don't know if is anybody here developer interested? Okay, so Node and Mongo. Otherwise, I might be talking about boring stuff.
What do you use on the back end?
Node and MongoDB. Cool.
Oh yeah. That's what eBay, I believe, and Craigslist use, if I'm correct. So. Craigslist.
Yeah, switching over to
that. Everyone's using Unity. Unity is free, basically free The Pro version, gives you a few extra features that when you want to compete a little bit higher, you'll want. It's like $5,000 a license or something. But like, the reason why everyone's using it is really nice tool base, and it supports cross-platform like no one's ever seen. Your one product will come out on the iPhone, Android, Xbox, PlayStation, Windows, PC, Macintosh, like almost hitch-free. So and it does 2D and 3D. Not every app is like a 2D or 3D game. By the way, I use the word app like application. I don't always mean just mobile, but Flappy Bird was HTML5, I think. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah. Flappy Bird was an HTML5 game.
That's actually how we're funding our Kickstarter.
Everyone's using Unity. I don't know what else to say other than like buy stock in Unity, because it's like I don't see any end of that road, and anyone that's competing against them, they're probably in trouble. So that's what everyone's using.
Actually, yeah, all the engines, UDK, Crisis, they all went really cheap, low loyalty. So I think they're all like, I think it really showed that all those companies really see a future in the game dev community, or they see that the indie community is the future. And that's the reason all these engines came down in price and lowered them to allowing the indie developers to use them.
Yeah, I haven't tried the Unreal. I think I want. Does it come with multiplayer built in?
Which one?
The new Unreal Engine?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet, but
Unity is kind of weak on the networking side.
Yeah.
So there's a hole there.
we got any other questions? No. All right. Well, you got one?
I do that a lot. So I could give you some comments. Do you guys want to go first at all?
Are you asking about building a team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or an indie team that.
One of the I mentioned in the beginning. Actually, remember, I don't know if you were here, but we have the Oklahoma Game Developers Group, and you can come in. There's a lot of passionate people, artists and developers, game designers, everything like that. But there's one option.
Are you talking about how to find them, or actually how to structure it? And it, not just on a finding who's wearing what hat, but even like how to gauge who gets what part of the success or the ownership of the product, or like that. Okay, it sounds like you're more interested in actually just managing the thing. You guys all have to pick a leader. A leader doesn't have to always just be one person, but there has to be a core leading part. It's usually the person building the team would be the leader, and it's kind of up to the leader to. A lot of people will find their spots on their own, but in the end of the day, when there's disputes, there has to be someone to kind of, let's say, hey, look, guys, it's all taken in. Let's less of two evils. Let's go this way.
And I guess if you're gonna building a leader or being a leader, building a team, any kind of creative process done in a team always works best with a flat hierarchy. Anytime someone steps above and thinks that they're above everybody else, creativity starts getting crushed. Everybody gets morale drops. So anytime you're building a team, everybody on that team has to treat everybody equally. It has to be completely flat, or else the creative process gets crushed.
Yeah. So when I say leader, I don't necessarily mean tree hierarchy. To his point, at the end, no one should trample over each other with skills, or ideas. But I still think there has to be, whether maybe mutual respect for each other's work should be broadly equal, but there still should be some type of structure. I would say,
I wasn't arguing against structure. So I see what you're saying.
I mean, there has to be some, you can't have a gridlock for too long. You guys, I think hearing it from you would be the best. You say there's 3 people in your company, and
Yep.
you introduce yourself as the founder. I mean, to me, you guys are co,
Yeah,
talk
we're
about
partners.
your
James founded GoldFire. James has been running GoldFire, and James is CTO. So James kind of manages the process. I mean, I could let you talk a little bit more about that, but James kind of is the one that kind of typically will take the time to actually look at the schedule, see what we need to do, start getting ideas for releases and stuff like that. But where he does it really well is where he allows Lane's our artist, where he allows us to actually have full control over our avenues. And since I'm purely technical, I get to make all the technical decisions, things of that nature. So he allows a lot of control in our areas.
Yeah, I think what's key, at least for our process, is to create sort of an outline, a plan for how things should go about, but then allow flexibility within that for that creative process, which is just really vital, obviously, for game development.
Yeah, you'll probably know you're having until you can get to a nice stasis level where everyone's pretty content and pleased with their role and position. And if you're feeling like you don't have that yet, you probably do have a structure problem. Every team member pretty much knows themselves what they're willing to do and willing not to do. And so if you're having friction, how you solve it is really going to depend on a lot of things, but it probably means you need to just keep working what you're trying to get to. It's a good thing. It's usually caused by growth. Usually people are only unhappy when they want more. So it's a good thing. It's like fire, passion, I mean, you want to have people that are like striving and trying to do things.
We got any other questions? Yeah. It's called Oklahoma Game Developers Meetup, and you can find it at okgd.org, or if you just search Google for Oklahoma Game Developers Meetup, you'll find it. Yep. Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming out.
Thanks, guys.
Smoking.